Westworld is finally back, baby, and it's time to dive into Season 3, Episode 1, with full spoilers, of course. Now, understand this, I'm going to kind of just run back, not less editing, and kind of just have a nice conversation here, but what my favorite thing to do is make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you guys love Westworld, if you love geeky content, make sure to hit it because you don't want to miss out on any of these reviews leading up to the finale. Now, if you also want some more Westworld content, head over to Film Speaks channel. Every Monday, we will be doing a podcast over there discussing Westworld in full detail in the podcast of Into the Westworld. It'll also be on iTunes, so I'll make sure to link them all down below, down there as well, so you guys never miss out on any of that. My favorite thing as well is to hear your guys' comments and theories and everything for next week as well, so make sure to leave a comment as well. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this episode and what do you guys think is going to happen next week or maybe even later this season. First off, though, let's get straight into this. Westworld is one of the most fascinating shows I've ever watched, to be completely honest. I'm so invested into this show. The first season was really good, and when the second season came about, I loved it. But the thing with all these two seasons, first off, was I always felt confused watching it. This is the show that definitely asks for your full attention. You can't have your phone and kind of try and watch. You have to watch every single glimmer of this, and then you're still going to be confused. But my favorite thing about this is seeing how it makes you less confused as the season go on. And this episode, I will say, I loved the first 20 minutes, and then as it kept going on, I still really liked it, but I'm a little bit iffy on the way that they paralleled everyone. I kind of liked it, I kind of didn't. But in general, I think I'm iffy on that because was kind of confused for a majority of this, even though I had rewatched and done so many recaps and all these sorts of stuff leading into the season because I needed to, recap myself. It's been almost 2 years since the second season, which I freaking loved. And season 3 for me opened up on a typical Westworld episode to introduce the season, kind of show where our main players are at, where they are going, and in general kind of setting up the stepping stones, because this is kind of what the show feels like every single season, especially season 2, and I feel like they're going to do the same mold for season 3, is build upon each episode, laying bricks down, and then once you get to the middle of it, kind of solidify the building is built, and then finally run into the middle of everything later on in the season. And I think with only 8 episodes this season, it's a little bit shorter, but I think that makes for maybe a more faster pacing, and we might get there a little bit faster as well. But I think the easiest way to talk about this season, or in general this episode, is go through each character that we kind of focus on the most. First one I really want to talk about is Aaron Paul's Caleb. Why am I saying Kale? Caleb, I loved him. I loved it. This is one of my most anticipated things to see in here because I'm a major fan of Aaron Paul due to Breaking Bad, of course, and he fits in Westworld just perfectly. I think the main thing a lot of us are kind of be interested in is, of course, that app he's using to kind of pull off the crimes one. It's just kind of interesting to see that this is in this society, but the way that he's pulling off these heists and these jobs, I really like getting to kind of know his character in very subtle manners, and just kind of as he's opening up throughout this episode, from the first few minutes that we meet him to the last few, and especially after you kind of find that revelation of who Francis was to him, I'm sure there will be even more to that. It's very interesting to say the least, and I love what they were able to do with Aaron Paul. Again, very much the setup of his character, but we can see that this is a hardworking guy who has a tragic past, who is also dealing with loss and grieving at the moment, which I'm kind of liking this, and of course there seems to be a PTSD element as well in there, and I love kind of the nature of the location we're in, because for the last 2 seasons we've pretty much just been in Westworld, and at the end of last season we finally saw that we're going to be going into the further development of this world, and in this we're in Los Angeles at 2058, which is just insane to see. But I really like what they were able to do with Aaron Paul, and in general, I love that he's in here. Jumping over to Dolores, we have to mention that Woods is just incredible in this role. I saw her in a film at Sundance earlier this year, and she was so good in it. But it just shows that her range is so highly fantastic, and she's so great in Westworld as Dolores. And really looking back from where Dolores started to now is just such a drastic change, but it feels so earned and believable, especially in the moment of what is going on with her character right now. Love with her character. Kind of love what she's trying to do, especially that opening scene of her. Man, just really my jaw hit the floor when the guy was running at her with the golf club. He swings, misses because of the hologram, hits his head. It's just, you can totally see what she's doing. And as the whole episode plays out, of course, when she got drugged, we all knew she was still awake. Come on. We were sitting there like, all right, yeah, she's not dead. She's not dead. She's not out. She's gonna pull her move and kill all these guys off. But I didn't expect to see the security guard have another version of him. That's where it gets intriguing to see how that's gonna come into play. Obviously, it looks like she's trying to build a revenue stream of some sort, maybe to build her own army of these. That's kind of where I'm theorizing. Could be completely wrong because that's kind of what Westworld is. I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me I'm completely wrong. That's exactly what I'm kind of getting from this. And again, that's kind of Westworld. I'm sure many of us are kind of confused watching this. This review isn't to pretty much tell you everything that's going on. That podcast will very much help because we're going to theorize a bunch in there. But in general, this kind of episode review is a little bit me just kind of the basic fan giving you guys my early thoughts, and then when I have those discussions, it makes it a little bit easier to formulate all together. But in general, Dolores sets her up where she's at in this place, and of course we also get to see a little bit of Tessa Thompson's Charlotte in here, and in general, it looks like she's a part of the scheme as well of what is going on with Dolores. She's trying to get some revenue as well. And I like that. I'm really happy Tessa Thompson's back. No Thandie Newton in this episode. No, she's in it because I've seen her in one trailer. Can't wait to see her back because damn, she's my favorite character in this whole entire show, besides Bernard, which is the next one that we have to talk about. Jeffrey Wright was snubbed of any award last year because he was or the year before that, because he was so good as Bernard, and he's still one of the most intriguing characters. Obviously, it opens up very confusing, and it kind of plays out that he's on the run. Something has happened. Now, I don't, maybe it ties back into the second season. I don't know. Maybe it's something else, but we can see that there's two versions of him fighting, and that button is a big key piece to where it is going. And that is going to, I guess, play a major part, because we saw a little bit of this fighting for his mind in the second season, but this is definitely going a little bit more further in the third season. I'm really curious to see how that plays out overall. But when he pressed that button and just started slamming shit, I'm like, hell yeah, man, let's get it. I love that whole dynamic in that whole range of how they were dealing with Bernard. And of course, at the very end of this episode, he says he's going back to Westworld, which now sets up to where, because I was wondering if we were actually going to get a little bit of Westworld, and obviously we are, so I'm wondering what entails him to go back there, what is there for him, and I think that's where the Man in Black's probably going to come into play back in Westworld. There's going to be some dynamic, and I kind of like how they are structuring these characters. I think the first season was a little bit confusing on that, but I think season 2 actually got it right down with the mold, and I think season 3 is going to kind of, again, take that same mold and really play around with that idea. I think it's very smart, I think it's strategic, and I love what the creators are able to do with inside this. The last thing I want to mention, of course, though, guys, before I get to my final thoughts on this episode, make sure again to hit that like and subscribe button. Head over to that podcast. Do not miss out on that. It's really good for Westworld fans, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a host, but in general, I really do think it is, and everything Griffin Schiller does at Film Speak is actually very much in detail, and I think you guys must love it. Head on over to Sandwich on Films, as well as how to see films early. Well, when this virus is over and films are coming out again. And of course, just a big thank you to you and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this, and I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. So overall, this first episode, I really liked it. I thought it was entertaining, a little bit confusing at times, but I love the way that they separate each character. Aaron Paul, bam, loved it. I can already tell I'm going to love Caleb's character the more that we get more dynamics with it. I hope he doesn't die this season. I hope, no one really dies in Westworld, but I hope he's a main player to come throughout. Dolores is a badass. I love that thing. And my favorite part of this is when the guy walks up to try and talk to her and she just goes, fuck off. I'm like, that's some big energy right there. Go you. Go you, man. Go you. It's an intriguing setup, and I'm intrigued for the rest of the season. I can't wait till next Sunday. So thank you guys so much for watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as well. So I hope to see you over at the podcast as well. And of course, until next time, stay classy.